Welcome to the Freight Project podcast, brought to you by Ceresys, a North American third-party logistics company providing shippers transportation management technology and solutions.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Freight Project podcast. On today's episode, we welcome Chris Kirchner, CEO and founder of Slink, a supply chain automation platform revolutionizing the ways partners collaborate using artificial intelligence, workflow, and blockchain. In this episode, Chris and I will talk about who is Slink and how they are utilizing advanced technologies like blockchain and other digital supply chain technologies such as artificial intelligence for product track and trace, exception management, and multi-party process automation, among many others. Chris and I will also get into why Slink, and especially with their blockchain and automation capabilities, entered the supply chain, logistics, and freight industry as the company saw a lot of opportunity to solve pain points in the industry utilizing technology. We then get into the heart of the matter and learn Slink's perspective on the current and potential benefits of blockchain to provide a competitive advantage and reduce costs in the supply chain, as well as increase visibility overall. Finally, you'll learn not just about blockchain, but why the focus for supply chain executives should be on realizing the problems happening in their supply chain and aligning themselves to the solutions offered up in the digital supply chain that are in place today, and that digitization of the supply chain to gain the benefits of a competitive advantage and reduce cost doesn't have to wait on the maturation of blockchain in the marketplace. We hope you enjoy this week's episode of the Freight Project Podcast. And thanks for being here today, Chris, on the Freight Project Podcast. I know our audience is going to absolutely love what you have to say today, bringing us some information around blockchain in supply chain management as one of the co-founders, is that correct, of Slink?
Yes, yeah, co-founder and CEO.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. Well, our audience always likes to know who are the people talking to us right now on this podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about Slink and what you do over there for blockchain in the supply chain?
Yeah. So we're San Francisco based. First of all, I know people always wonder where we are. We are out here in downtown San Francisco. And what Slink is, we call ourselves a supply chain automation and collaboration platform, which sounds very kind of vague. We are focused in the logistics space, logistics processes, both for logistics service providers, freight forwarders, carriers, so on and so forth. And then also for the shippers themselves. Several of our customers are very large global shippers. Our platform, we leverage several technologies, not just blockchain. Blockchain is kind of one Lego in our set, if you will.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we with our platform, we basically give someone to play on the Lego analogy. We give someone several Legos or a customer several Legos. One is the ability to create intelligent workflows, both smart contracts, which obviously you hear a lot about in regards to blockchain, but also workflows that operate similarly, but for internal uses. We give them a declarative integration engine. So integrations for us are kind of in two key formats, but have a large number of possible actual, forms. But really for us, we look at it as email integration. So being able to integrate the conversation and data and information from emails, and then also data integration in the form of APIs, EDI integration, so on and so forth. We use artificial intelligence. My co-founder and a lot of our founding team on the engineering side came out of the Einstein team at Salesforce. So big commercialized artificial intelligence product. So they have a lot of domain expertise there. And then, of course, blockchain. So with a mixture of these different things, we're able to solve a lot of things for our customers. Some of the big things that we're seeing in play where we're having a lot of success and seeing massive returns for some of our earliest customers and now people coming to the party at this point in time are in product track and trace, exception management and workflows related to exception management. That's a big thing, especially in the freight forwarding space. We're seeing some incredible changes to how businesses operate using our exception management solution. And then also multi-party process automation. So when you have a good being passed among multiple parties, there are different things that are triggered when an exception happens, when something good happens, based on different processes that are currently handled very manually. We've automated those and have seen some just incredible changes in the way people operate. So yeah, that's, I guess, a little bit long-winded, but that is what Slink is and what we do.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, you kind of hit on some really interesting things as a guy in freight, right? And I'm marketing in freight and an industry that's pretty old and ripe for disruption. You said integration, you said things like exception management, you said things like, artificial intelligence and just technology in general. And that's what we're seeing a lot lately, and it's a good sign. But why would you want to go in and try and disrupt this, massive freight market and shipping market and get into the logistics and freight industry? Are you crazy, Chris?
Yeah, a little bit, depending on how you look at it.
And I mean that tongue in cheek. It's a fun industry, but there's a lot going on.
Definitely. We look at it as kind of this beautiful mess. As an entrepreneur, and that's really what I am. I always tell people I'm the degenerate entrepreneur of the group, right? So I'm the one who comes up with the crazy idea and sees an opportunity within a market. And the pain points within freight and logistics, especially when you look at technology and kind of this broad category of digitization, they are widespread. They are very painful. We've had C-level executives at some very, very big companies that are household names, not even just for people who know the freight and logistics space, tell us just how painful some of these things are and how they're just having trouble solving them, or someone hasn't brought a good software solution to them to help, remedy whatever this challenge is that they're facing. But there are a lot of things that people in the industry are searching for and haven't. And some of the new pressure, a lot of it is a result of Amazon and this really fundamental shift that they've created where the supply chain as a whole, so to go a little bit broader than logistics and freight, the supply chain as a whole is no longer seen necessarily as just a cost center. It's now seen as an opportunity for a competitive advantage and for a way to influence customer experience, to influence revenue, and to really drive future success for a business. And we believe, our platform and what we're seeing with our customers is Slink, by focusing really on three key things, which is collaboration, automation, and digitization for our customers. We're seeing just incredible changes and our customers, cutting 9-digit sums off of operating costs. And with what we actually kind of considered initially fairly rudimentary solutions. Blockchain, it's to kind of go into blockchain just a little bit. Blockchain is an interesting thing in this space because it's almost been a catalyst to drive people to do something that they failed to do for decades. And that's why that opportunity and that kind of collision of, market factors with Amazon, blockchain being this catalyst for change and the mess, for lack of a better way of putting it, that we saw in the space, that was really why the focus was here and why we saw this massive opportunity to, help our customers help themselves at the end of the day.
And that's what it's about, right? Solutions-oriented logistics problems will be the future. And there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of inefficiencies. And there's obviously room for consolidation in the marketplace. But if these shippers and at a larger level, supply chain execs start really seeing how technology can solve some of those problems, they really get a lot of benefits. Now, blockchain's got a lot of hype. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a lot what I would say as the Internet of Things maybe 5 or 6 years ago. A lot of hype. But, aren't there probably some real world benefits that the supply chain professionals can get out of blockchain? So let's move beyond the hype. What benefits have you guys seen working with logistics service providers or big shippers at Slink?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I think hype is good. Hype gets people excited. When people are excited, they do things.
I like to be hyped up. That's for sure.
Yeah, you've seen it with AI, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe kind of 11, 12. IoT a couple years after that. Now, you're seeing it with blockchain, right? You kind of have these waves. Well, AI is finally gaining traction to where it's getting implemented, right? 6, 7 years down the line. IoT, I think, is kind of the next wave where you're going to start seeing returns and more mass adoption. Blockchain is very, very early, first of all. So getting beyond the hype, I think there's this kind of reality check that needs to happen a little bit. People got really excited over the cryptocurrency thing, and some of the ads that have been placed on TV by companies much larger than us. But I think there needs to be a reality check on just the pace at which implementation happens and the pace of change in this space. Yes, it's getting faster than it was, but we're still talking about massive enterprise companies, which is where you really see the greatest value of blockchain. And really, you can kind of dump it into 4 buckets, if you will. Transparency is one big thing, right? Just seeing what happened. Line of sight and visibility is a pain point, and we could talk for 6 hours about what visibility is.
Yeah, ask 4 supply chain managers what their definition of visibility is. You'll get 4 different answers. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And then when you throw in the different functions within the supply chain, that becomes an exponential equation, right? As far as how many different definitions of the word visibility. Traceability, which I think is kind of a cousin to transparency, is another big thing. Being able to see, again, visibility coming in here. These are all kind of part of the same family. But being able to understand the path of a product across partners. Right now it's done at a lot more macro level, like a shipment or a purchase order, and even that's not perfect or far from perfect in most cases. But being able to see even down to like the product or the unit level, the path of something across multiple parties, blockchain enables that. I think that's one of the best use cases and one of the ones I think a lot of companies have honed in on. And a lot of customers have honed in on is, okay, if we can figure out how to crack this nut, this is the one where blockchain truly provides something unique. Accountability, I think, is a big thing. When you lock something in and make it immutable, you can hold people accountable. This combination of traceability, transparency, and accountability is pretty exciting for me and is one of the reasons why blockchain is kind of part of our mix, or, one of the ingredients of what we bake up for our customers, right? Or what they bake up, and we enable them to bake up with our platform. And then finally, digitization plays in with blockchain, and blockchain drives some of that, especially some of the trials that I've seen in the market around the bill of lading specifically. That is the most expensive piece of paper in business, right? It is a pain. It is the definition of a pain point for people in global logistics. And so being able to digitize that, have a trusted digital format of a document that's visible, it's transparent, that holds the parties accountable, throughout that chain. I think that's one of the most ironclad and I guess textbook use cases for blockchain within this space. And you've seen some people doing it great. I think there are some barriers there when you talk about some of the consortiums and the various players in the space. It's hard to get companies who are ingrained in the fact that they compete with each other to want to cooperate. That's just not how it works. So there are some business problems as far as getting this adopted on a more mass scale across an entire industry. But that's a whole other discussion.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the bill of lading, and I can actually see one day our transportation management system that we have here at Ceres is embedding, the Slink platform. So the Slink platform, since I think that one of the key factors we enjoy is getting a shipper to a bill of lading as fast as possible. So imagine that being even more efficient. It could be very helpful. But how far off are we, Chris? What's the market maturity from blockchain being implemented, maybe beyond just the bigger, massive companies we're seeing today use it?
So I had, and I'm going to keep this fairly vague because I don't want to point any fingers here. I had a supply chain leader, a C-level leader at a very, very large company just recently on a trip abroad who had done a blockchain pilot focused on the bill of lading, actually. Had massive success with it, absolutely loved it. Very clear ROI, understands how it could get implemented for that specific thing, saw the pathway to use it, said, absolutely love this, was very, very rosy on kind of the reflection on this project. And then in the next sentence said, we have no intention to implement this in the foreseeable future. And kind of went into some of the business challenges and the challenges of getting everyone in the network to cooperate and things that have nothing to do with blockchain as a technology, but have a massive impact on whether or not it can be used. And I think that's where the market is in a large, if you really look at it and if you want to be honest about it. I think there's obviously a large groundswell and it's building momentum, but the reality is some of the theoretical the theoretical solutions of what this would look like in a utopian world just don't match up with what's actually achievable in 2018 in the business world and for the people who are actually business operators who live and breathe this stuff on a daily basis. And so it's everyone's excited about it. Everyone's still talking about it, but it's this, oh yeah, it's nice. We can see it, but it just doesn't make sense right now. And I think that's combined with it's solving problems that aren't at the top of people's problem list. So every supply chain, CSO, VP of supply chain, SVP of supply chain, whatever that title is, they have a list. Here are the 10 things that are killing me, right? And some are killing them very fast, some are killing them very slow. But here are the 10 things in priority order that we need to address in our business. And some of the things that blockchain solves are not in the top 5 or maybe even the top 10 in some cases. And so there are other technologies that I think people are misappropriating blockchain and saying, oh yeah, it can solve that. Well, it's not really the best way to solve that. And it's not the most cost-effective one. And in the world of supply chain, it's a zero-sum game for most people, right? And so if you're not reducing costs, you may be solving something, but if it's more expensive, no one's ever going to buy it. And so I think the reality of blockchain and market maturity of blockchain is it's very immature. And that's kind of a long way of saying that. I think you are seeing pilots being successful, but the pathway from pilot to global rollout and the permutations of partners and different things that need to fall in place to make that happen, because blockchain by nature is codependent, right? You need multiple parties for it to work or for it to be valuable. And that's just not easy to do.
Well, Chris, I think you nailed it when it comes to blockchain and supply chain. And we've been kind of saying this on our blog and some articles where, is it something you should pay attention to? Absolutely. Can it be transformative for the supply chain? It probably will. However, are you doing what it takes today to step back holistically, state your problems, and then start aligning real world solutions to change those problems? And sometimes it's not blockchain. Maybe in the future it might be. Maybe that might fit a segment of the problems you're having in the future or that you're thinking about. But the reality is digitizing the supply chain and looking at what are technologies today that can solve this problem I have today, and what are the right partners and people to put in place in order to solve that problem. A lot of P's, but
yeah. No, and I completely agree with you. And just to jump in here real quick, I think you're spot on, and I'm 100% with you. It's digitization first. There's still a massive problem in just that, in getting digitized across a lot of processes. We live in a world in the supply chain where it is very manual. It is paper-based in a lot of cases. It looks more like 1998 or 95 than it does 2018. And some of the guys on my team that came out of Salesforce were shocked at just how it is these companies operate, right? And so, yeah, that's where people are really focused is, look, we need to digitize first and then get into this blockchain stuff. But the unanimous sentiment is, hey, blockchain is the future. And where it's driven us, and we're definitely a customer first company. Of course, every company says that, but our customers actually drive our product roadmap. We have a very great feedback loop, and a lot of people that most are customers, some aren't even customers, but want to participate because they see a future for us and will probably become customers at some point. And so they're open with feedback on us or for us. And this idea of being blockchain enabled is something that we truly embrace, because it takes a different mindset of building a product, thinking of, okay, how does this product behave when it is interacting with a blockchain? And that's where our platform, being blockchain enabled, I think sets us apart from a lot of the legacy systems. In fact, all of them. But it answers kind of and directly reflects what we've heard in the market of, look, blockchain is our future for certain parts of our business. We know that, we see that. no one's ignoring that, but it doesn't solve the problems that we need to solve today.
That's right.
And so we've focused on the problems for today and the solutions for today, but have left the door open for what they're going to need in the future.
Well, how about that? You use like 18 less words than I use to say the same thing much more succinctly. I think that's really good. Well done. So efficiency at its finest from Chris over at Slink, man. Well, it's an exciting company. I can't wait to watch you guys grow. And I think you are in the here and now. I think the biggest problems that supply chain or C-suite people will have in the future is talent. Finding those who understand supply chain, but also understand technology. Typically two different types of brains, but I think that's the future. And the future CEOs will be Tim Cooks of the world who came from the supply chain world. So supply chain pros, get to know Slink over at, where's the website, Chris?
Slink.io.
All right. Or give them a Google, SLYNC. But Chris, thanks so much for your insights today. A lot of good stuff. I know this is going to be a widely listened to podcast just because of the subject matter. So thanks for your time, and thanks for giving your thoughts on the Freight Project podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. We'll have to do it again, and we'll see maybe a year from now where things are, or I guess how wrong I might be today.
I'm sure you're willing to take that humble pie. You sound like the guy who would. So I appreciate that.
Never afraid of that. But thank you so much. It was great talking to you, and hope the listeners enjoy.
Thanks so much, Chris. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.